welcome to Cosmic Echoes. Morning, Sue.
Well, as I said, we were about to say, breathe
Yes.
and breathe. Gosh, interesting
Ooh.
times, eh, girl?
Yes, it is. And I think I want to kind of lead in with this because
Yeah,
there is a lot of fear. I get pulled into it quite often. And it's part of this Pisces inner world moving into Aries at this moment. We had the new moon yesterday.
yeah,
It was
did.
literally in Pisces, new moon peaked in Pisces and then moved into Aries 3 hours later or something like that,
Yeah,
less than 3 hours later.
yeah, yeah,
Today, the sun's moving into Aries,
yeah,
Mercury's going direct. I feel like we're on this threshold and we need to be in the moment, not being swept away with the fear because the fear
yeah.
has got grounds.
Oh, absolutely. There's
Mm.
no question of that. I think that the issue is that we've never had multimedia like this before.
Yeah,
So the entire world's on it. Um,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
everybody's a journalist, by the way,
yeah,
whether you're a journalist or whether you think you're a journalist or whether you're an astrological journalist.
yeah,
So
yeah,
um, everybody's at it. And I think that is feeding, I think there's a lot of clickbait going on,
yeah,
sensational headlines, which is feeding a lot of people's fears.
yeah.
I struggle around that, but that's the way the world is, and that's what we have to deal with. But there's no question that the new moon yesterday is the bridge between what has been
Mm.
the Piscean energy and what is to come, which is this very Aries energy, which is
Yeah.
very much being triggered by this Neptune and Saturn conjunction, because literally, as soon as it did, boom. So
Mm.
I'm interested. Obviously, we're recording today on the equinox. So, do you know
Yeah.
what, folks? Happy light coming back.
Yes, please. Thank you very much. It's
And it's a
been.
Butte day. Shit is happening in the world. We know
Mm.
that, but it is a
Mm.
Butte day, and it is about, I think, because it's spring, just taking those moments to go, God, this is beautiful. If you
Yes,
can.
yes. Well, I think you should try and make yourself. You know what I mean? I
Well,
think
if you can, yeah.
if you can, yes.
Mm.
There is something to be said, and I think it's got a lot to do with my personality. Being a Sagittarian, there's always kind of a hopefulness, somewhere,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know. But the grass is green, the birds are out,
yes.
to focus
They
on
don't
where we
care.
are in the moment. Yes. Um,
Yeah.
it,
And I
it is
think,
good for
this
us.
is such a good time, especially building up to the full moon that's coming,
Mm,
which is on the 2nd of April.
mm,
Um, we're finishing things off on the 2nd of April. There's still Mars is still in Pisces. That's a
yeah.
spiritual warrior. So it hasn't entered into Aries yet, but it will be on. So it does move into Aries
And
on the
then nine,
19th of, hang on a second. Yes. And
nine.
then it actually it conjuncts, sorry, it moves in on the 11th of April to
Mm,
Aries. Then my concern is that it conjuncts Saturn on just before the new moon on the 19th of April. So
mm,
I I don't want to be a fearmonger, but I think we're not out of the woods yet. But also, what's interesting for me in this on the 2nd of April, the full moon on the 2nd of April, which we're leading up to right now,
yeah. Yeah.
is Jupiter is square the full moon. Now, the full
Mm,
moon is going to be in Libra. Libra wants balance and harmony
yeah.
and wants to reach out to have relationships, obviously. But the Mars is the Sun is going to be in Aries, with Saturn building up to that, up to the Sun is at 12 degrees and Saturn is at 5 degrees, and you've got Neptune at 2 degrees, and Mars waiting to come into Aries. So there
Mm,
is this sense of tension. And I would say that Jupiter square is in Cancer.
Mm,
So it's squaring the moon. So the moon's very
yeah,
pulled into this, which is about, I always think on a global chart, we're talking about the homelands. As
yeah,
a Cancer, Jupiter in Cancer is the homeland. So
mm,
I think situations are going to be very challenged around home and safety and lineage and family. And I think those things are now going to be increasingly highlighted. But we know that.
mm,
So I think it's just going to be a little bit more of the same. But the big one, the big shift actually is the moon on the 22nd of April.
yeah.
Now, I
I
know,
just want to go back quick to the full moon
yeah,
before we move
yeah,
to
for
this, because I
sure.
know it's really big, and the new moon on the 22nd.
Yeah.
Um, this full moon has got so much significance in religious practice and traditions as well.
Yes.
Mm.
Well, yes, yes.
Yes.
I mean, I think we have to be, because you have to be so careful what you say, isn't it? But I do think we're facing the holy war, the
Yes.
Abrahamic. It's something is being played out in the Abrahamic religions.
I would love to give my 2 cents to this
Please.
because I think our perception of this is shifting. I think we have been told a version of this that is changing. The aggressor is has been the one side has been dehumanized in order for us to murder, to annihilate, to do things that we wouldn't do to people if we saw them as our equals.
But the Abrahamic religions throughout history have always been doing that to each other. Always.
Yes, but we are now, I feel and I hope, moving into an awareness that can supersede that primitive version of religion.
I think it has to play itself out.
Mm,
I do. And I think that what gives me hope is that in on the 22nd of April,
yeah.
Uranus will start going into square with the nodes. So
Hmm.
the node, and this will be carrying on until July 27. Now, when you've got Uranus square the nodes, this is a long process. This is over a year.
Yeah.
Uranus is the great awakener. Like,
Yeah.
what the hell is happening out here? Especially when it moves into Gemini.
Mm,
So when it moves into Gemini, it's going to that square is going to be really potent. And I think that's when the kind of scales will start falling from everyone's eyes to actually understand truly what's going on and
yeah.
what is truth and
Yeah.
what is what is the truth of being part of what we call humanity.
Yeah.
What are we all on?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think there's a double-edged sword going on here. I
Yeah.
do, which is bound to be because there always is in times of extreme conflict, and that is what we're
Yes.
in.
And I think I just checked too. The new moon is on the 17th. I had it differently, and I was wondering, and that's
Oh,
the Mercury conjunct Neptune. Do you want to?
I've got it at the 22nd of April, the new moon. Hang on a second. Have you got it there?
Yes, I've just double checked on Astrology.
Okay. The 17th. Then that's my mistake. I got it down
No,
for
that's
the.
okay. I mean, I just,
Hang on a second.
yeah.
Let me
Please
double
make
double
sure
triple.
before we
Let me double triple. You're
conclude.
absolutely right. My fault. It's the
No
17th.
problem.
Absolutely, 17th of April.
Okay.
I
Um,
don't know where I got the 22nd from. It's just sitting right here. Okay, so
yeah, because I
whatever.
thought I just had a panic
Thank
moment of
you.
panic because I just created this journal and I put in all these things and I have a list of it and I
And
thought,
then
oh,
I come
it's,
online and go, oh, it's the
I need
22nd.
to
No, it
pull this
isn't. It's
old
the
journal
17th.
and change everything.
So yes,
Yeah.
so going. Thank you for that. That's right. That's why it's always good to have two of us on it, isn't
Yes.
it? So
Yes.
I just
Yeah, but it doesn't
Yeah,
change it's just the number of when it's happening, but it doesn't change what we're saying around it or what you're saying.
no. I
This
think,
new moon and
and also at that new moon I mean, we've got 7 planets in Aries.
mm,
Aries is the god of war, potency, aggression, assertion.
mm,
So I think April is going to be an uncomfortable month. And we've also got at that new moon, we've got Uranus at 29 degrees Taurus.
mm,
So it is just, and it's always 29 degrees, we call it the anoretic degree. It is that sense of there's an urgency here, there's a
yeah,
potency of Uranus. And I wonder if it's going to manifest physically on the planet, not
mm,
necessarily just as war,
yeah,
but as a massive volcano, or it's the Earth.
mm,
So I'm not sure about how this is going to pan out, but I would just say to everyone, just hang in there, because and just be super sensitive in April about where you feel safe and where you don't.
yeah. And at the same time, April is often a month, I think it was last year we had the eclipses um, and the things in April.
Yes,
There's always a
yes,
I don't know what the right word is, but there's something happening, there's a movement, there's a fire, it's the
yes,
start of the new astrological year. Now we've got all these planets moving into Aries.
yeah,
Aries is fire. Aries is also about me,
yes. Me and
it's
mine.
me and mine.
Yeah.
And I think that's also an awareness to kind of embrace as to um, I am not separate from the whole, you know. I am in the Western culture, we're very individualized, which
Mm.
is one thing, but we also are part of the planet and co-inhabit this
We
space.
we absolutely are, and I completely agree with that. And I think that I am is going to play out very strongly in April.
Yeah.
And I think it's very interesting that Mars that rules this new moon on the 17th of April, it's now just become the morning star. So it is
Ah,
actually and it's making an
mm,
appearance in the morning. And it's kind of like everything's very Marsy.
yeah. Yeah.
Very Mars is going to sit right on top of Saturn as well.
Mm.
Um, yeah,
And Mercury is conjuncting Neptune on that
yeah.
new
That's
moon.
illusions and
Mm.
delusions, but also visions. Maybe people will start getting very how after this crap's over, how do we want to live? I believe hope without sounding dramatic, I think the world has changed forever.
I
I,
think
I
so
mean
too.
forever.
Forever.
Forever. As everybody said, forever. But I think it is now, there is no go. The genie's out the bottle. The Pandora's box has now been blown
Yeah.
open, and there's no
Yeah.
putting it back. So
Which
how,
is good because
which
it
is
also
good.
means we are moving out of this. Um, America isn't the superpower that it wants us to believe it is. These people
Yes,
aren't right just because they say they are. Those people aren't bad just because, you know what I mean? There's a
absolutely.
shift and it's uncomfortable, but you
Abs
can't grow out in being comfortable. This is the
this is it.
indicator, yeah.
Yeah. I think the other interesting thing about the 17th of March, the new moon, is that Pluto it is out of sign, but it is squaring the new moon as well. And don't
Mm,
forget, the new moon is conjunct Chiron. So the wound of who am I is going to be very prominent
mm,
and don't forget the Christians and the Jewish traditions and the Islamic traditions all carry this incredible wound of who am I?
yeah.
And that is being played out right in front of us now. And
Mm,
maybe the Piscean energy that we've been going through, which is coming up, is about what is religion. It is not fundamentalism. And
yes.
maybe that's what we're being shown. Maybe that's what Uranus will give us.
Yeah.
Look, this is not what religion is about.
Or yeah, or what we want it to be about. It's moved away from, and that's, I think, a lot to do with patriarchy, and we're moving away
Yeah,
from like patriarchal systems and beliefs and ways of being in this. But people are dying.
yeah,
We're still okay. Yeah, I mean, it's yeah.
yeah. But
But
then,
imagine
do you
being
know what?
there.
A lot of people are, it's very interesting. The meningitis
Yeah,
has broke. That's very Mars. That
yeah.
fever is Mars energy.
Oh,
That's very
interesting.
Aries energy. I know we're not in April yet, but I was
Yeah,
interested to see that.
yeah.
And a lot of people are really struggling with what the world is all about anymore because kids are leaving university, there's no jobs.
Mm,
I have a lovely friend and her son spent a fortune doing a PhD in film
mm.
studies, no job.
Yeah,
Where do you go with that? So we have to go back to community living,
I
finding
agree.
meaning
I,
in
I
that.
agree. We need each other, but we also need to move away from being dependent on these systems because they've been broken for so long. The education system has been broken for
Yeah.
hundreds of years. It's not being, worked on. People walk out of universities without experience and having to relearn what they supposedly just got a master's or a doctor's degree for. You know what I mean? For them to be able to adjust. So to become freer, or our perception of free, we also need to let go of these things, but we don't know where we're going to. So I did a deep dive over this week into the emergent tree, or the story of emergence from the Navajo, because I've been doing these tree myths, and I've done the Norse, the Yggdrasil, and I did the Baobab, and then yesterday I did the Emergence. And the messaging from that is in each world. So they have these four worlds, and in each world, the only way that they get to move up, through this reed type thing, is that they get uncomfortable, that they have to move, but there isn't any certainty as to where they're moving. And I think this is very much of this time that we're in. We know that this world that we've created isn't hasn't got the space for us to be who we want to be, maybe, or who we are moving towards. So we need to move, but we don't know what's in this next world.
No, we don't. And I think this is why it's one day at a time. And I think it is about Aries is about me, so it's about personal, that the higher aspect of that is personal responsibility. And
Mm,
that's going to be very coming to the fore. I mean, Dolores Cannon talked about this time. I think that's what gives me the most hope, that this time has been foretold for centuries. The Hopi prophecies, Edgar Casey prophecies. Oh, Dolores Cannon is talking about this time. And, all the great seers have said this
mm,
time will come
yeah,
and it's here. And
yeah,
I think, and all the seers have said time will provide an opportunity of choice. How do you want to live? And Dolores Cannon did talk about two worlds. One world where she called it,
yeah,
where
yeah.
maybe people
Not
weren't
so
waking
human.
up to whatever it was
Yeah,
that they needed to wake up for, or waking up to something different that they wanted. And other people are going, no, I value my
yeah,
humanity.
yeah.
And I think this is the critical time. And I think this month, April, is the critical month that all of this starts to really unfold. And
Mm,
I'm waiting for many more demonstrations to go stop.
mm. Yeah, and movement into. I see there's a bigger flotilla going
Yes.
into. There's now. Pisces was the okay. We internalizing, we processing, and Aries is okay. Now we're moving. Now
Yeah,
now
yeah,
it's
yeah.
this is now enough. We've asked, and it's just getting worse. So
Well, it's blown the
it's
top off the
movement.
bottle.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah,
done.
yeah.
The explosions it's happened.
Yeah.
And now we've got to deal with the nuclear fallout of
Mm,
what does that mean to us. And
mm.
can't remember who I was listening to, but it's everybody's saying the same thing. Whoever, if you want to create a new world, you have to do it in community, grassroots
Yeah.
community. That's it.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
you find
But not what's the word? We need diversity. So we can't go, oh, all the green people of between 50 and 60 go live there and all
oh
the,
no, no,
you know
no,
what I
no,
mean?
no. This is community. This
This is
is like,
this
yeah,
is a real community, not
yes.
a segregatory kind of
No,
aspect.
that's not
Everybody's
Gates
the
time.
same. Yeah, yeah,
No, no, absolutely not. This is in the communities, bringing everyone together to see what
yeah,
skills we have,
yeah.
and then and maybe it is that we all go and dig for Britain.
Mm.
That wouldn't surprise me now because we're going to be short of food.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So we aren't there yet, but
yeah.
come September, October, I think it's going to be interesting to see how this is going to be dealt with the fuel. And people are thinking, oh well, it'll all end. It's not going to. That the Dan Waits is so good on this.
Mm.
I believe, I'm so admire his dedication and his non-drama
Yeah.
about what's happening in the world. And he doesn't say this is it, but he
Mm.
says these are the strong themes. And
Mm.
I think that we've all got to face that this is the time that has been foretold, and
Mm.
each one of us has got a very important role to play in how we create a place that feels okay within the not the non-okayness.
Yes. Yes. Because it's this Ubuntu thing, I am because we are
Yeah,
is I'm just happy I'm
yeah,
going home to
I
be
bet you
honest.
are.
And we will be landing back well now because we want to take our cat with and we're too nervous to fly her in cargo. We'll be flying to Windhoek and then driving down
Whoa,
1,600 kilometers. So
well,
it will be
because of the
quite a
cat.
pilgrimage, really. Yeah.
Good on you and good on the cat.
Yeah, well, she's doing lots of training at the moment because she's very nervous. So she's got
Well, they know, don't
harness
they?
training and
I love it. Well, I think that's absolutely, I mean, that's that. I love that because that's so human, isn't it? Oh, well, I
yeah,
tell you what, we love our cat so much. We'll just pay huge amounts of money to get her there because she's worth it.
yeah, yeah,
That's joyful.
yeah. And and we're taking it in the cabin, so we doing this trip
Yeah.
with her. So hopefully all goes well. And we all get there in this
In
journey
one,
because I get to show my children my homeland as well. They've never been, so
yeah.
yeah, it's going to be quite a
Yeah,
pilgrimage. Which yeah, I think it is also important that we do these things. That we don't get
definitely.
wrapped up in the yeah, things are changing. So
I
let's
think
change
it's,
also.
yeah, I love the word pilgrimage. I went on a pilgrimage with the British Pilgrim Trust a couple of
Yeah.
weekends ago. And this whole concept of walking with a sense of I suppose reverence for nature,
Mm.
and just we stopped in front of various trees, and Guy, who runs the British Pilgrim Trust, was singing to the tree,
That
and
was
it
very
was
nice.
such a lovely experience to
Yeah.
just go with other pilgrims and with
Yeah.
thoughts about what with intent
Mm.
of just communicating with what our understanding of the great divine is, but doing
Yeah.
it very consciously. And I think if I'm really into pilgrimage, the
Yeah.
whole
Yeah.
idea of pilgrimage. And I love the fact that the new bishop, the new archbishop, like Sarah, whatever her name is making a pilgrimage from London to Canterbury. So
Oh,
she's walking,
interesting.
yeah, she's walking this on the pilgrim's route, the six
Yeah.
days
Yeah.
to get to Canterbury to have her whatever you call
Yeah.
being a bishop is.
Yeah.
But that's what she's doing, and
Yeah.
it's and she's it's the first time a bishop has done a pilgrimage to her
Mm.
bishoping for, I mean, centuries. It has to be a woman, doesn't it, who's done
Of
it?
course it is. Of course it is. But this is also bringing us back to that sense of community.
Yes.
I call it tribe because I think
Mm.
this word tribe has been ostracized. I don't know what the right word is, but
Yeah.
the meaning of it and tribe is so diverse in that we have I always love talking about the crazy moon lady that lives by the river kind of thing, which I really connect with. Um, but there used to be, and we were telling my son about it the other day, these, um, it's not pilgrimages, but transitional experiences. We've lost that um, in our culture. I think Rupert Sheldrake talks about that a lot as well. Um,
Well, it ended actually. Henry VIII banned pilgrimages when he became
oh,
head
I
of the,
see. I
yeah.
didn't know
It
that.
went because everybody was doing pilgrimages all over the place to holy relics and doing all that kind of stuff. But it was Henry VIII that after the Reformation that was the end of for
Oh,
it
in England.
for
In England.
England, yes.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
Protestants
yeah,
never did pilgrimages because
yeah.
it was about the scriptures, not about traveling to a holy relic,
Mm,
and saying prayers for the dead. That was if you were a Protestant, that was heresy.
yeah.
So it's very interesting the Reformation. And do you know what? It almost feels like that we are facing a Reformation,
Mm,
another Reformation, a
yeah,
complete, utter change. It's a different way, but
yeah.
it feels like Reformation is a very apt word for me at the moment.
Mm,
And this sense of pilgrimage, and if we start to look at how we're going to work our way through what's
mm,
happening as a pilgrimage
yeah,
and lighting a candle to it and using
yeah,
it as I suppose in a kind of reverent way that
yeah.
humanity is going through this massive reformation, then I think it makes it easier.
Well, it connects our bodies. It embodies it, doesn't it? In the
Yeah,
process, because a lot of what we're experiencing is internal, and to be part of a pilgrimage, my dream's always been to do the El Camino. Um, to be, it's not easy, it's not
no,
something that is a stroll in the park kind of thing. There is
no, I've
a
done
level
it.
of
No, it's
physical,
not.
yeah.
But
There's a
you do
level,
but
yeah.
you do it willingly. You set out
But that's it.
knowing
Yeah.
that you're here to be tested. You're
Yeah.
doing this to be tested, to be footsore, to meet
Mm.
people on the way, to be robbed, to be whatever happens to you on the pilgrimage. You're up
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah.
And I think that's why if we change our understanding of what's happening now into a sense of this is a sacred pilgrimage that we're all going
Hmm.
through, I think it's helpful because then we're up for it.
It is. And it connects this mind, body, spirit
Yes.
element because a lot of what I feel we're doing is we're internalizing, we're analyzing, we're using our heads to try and figure out who's right and who's wrong and
Yes.
whose side and I'm going to pick. But there's no, okay, I'm part of this and I'm moving through it in more than a
Yeah.
internal way. Yeah, which is
We're
also
all,
Aryan, isn't it?
yeah, we're all part of humanity. We've all
Hmm.
explicitly or implicitly created what's happening right now. Every one
Yeah.
of us on this planet is
Yeah.
absolutely co-responsible for what's happening. So
Yeah.
for those of us that don't want it,
Mm.
then we need to find ways that doesn't feed the beast. That's the big thing.
Yeah.
And it's about being very responsible for how we feel in the process. And as I said, if we change it into something that this is an incredible opportunity or a path of awakening on the 17th of April on this new moon, what's even more potent is that Uranus, the great awakener, is at 29 degrees. That's of Taurus. Now, the 29
Mhm.
degrees is the anaretic degree, and this really is a sense of urgency. It's
Mm.
very, very potent then. So I think it's going to crack something open.
Well, Taurus is the bull, isn't it?
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
think it's going to crack something open.
Mm.
So mm. We need to
Yeah.
be cracked open. We need to
Yeah.
see the truth.
We do. And we also, I just want to come back to a point that you made there about being responsible for also in our marketing, also as astrologers, there needs to be a little bit more of a, you don't need to play to the clickbait or you don't need to be I know it's and this is one of the systems that I feel needs to be broken is this marketing, this money. If I get you to engage, and but in the meantime, you're also feeding the beast. You're also creating
Yeah.
fear that is already there and already has a base. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and do you know what? We're guilty too because we're doing this video. Um,
But we're not saying this is the end of we're not doing it that way. So to we need to have these conversations. We need to have awareness. This is part of community, I believe, because we are not just the two of us sitting around talking. It is involving people and we're open for, commentary or whatever it is. And we're not trying to find the biggest banner to say the world's going to blow up or I don't know, whatever.
no, the
It's
end of
the
the world
biggest
is
turning
coming.
point in the world ever. And
Mm,
what, yeah. So
yeah.
there is a, I found a better word that for balance. I've been struggling with this for years and dynamic. So a
Dynamic.
dynamic, but
Yes. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
needs to be felt into because it isn't a either or. It can be that we are here having these conversations, um, and we are accountable to not creating something that there isn't. You know what I mean?
I do, and I don't earn money from YouTube. I'm very clear about that.
Yeah.
That's not what I want to do. But a
It would
lot
be
of
great, but
astrologers
yeah.
do. It is their income. So
Mm.
and you're up against a lot of other astrologers. So it's a very crowded marketplace, and that is for sure.
Yeah.
And it's people are hungry. They want to know. So, and
Mm.
I've said this for a long time that astrologers now are on the front line of information.
Yes, and they need to be responsible for that. You know what I mean? They need to be accountable to um, not water down the depth of astrology because I think astrology has so much to offer us in this time, and
Mm.
for everybody to go, it's always the biggest week or always the worst or always the this. It waters down the messaging that is inherent to astrology or the authenticity, whatever that word is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
No, I agree. Yeah, I mean, we're in such uncharted waters at the moment. I
mm,
think that's what it is. And people don't like uncertainty. So
yeah,
everybody's looking for everything, and social media is awash with all sorts of information and psychics and mystics and seers and astrologers. I mean, and in fact, actually, after the First World War,
mm,
with so many people dying and such uncertainty, that's when the spiritualist churches really took off because
yeah,
people wanted to know, and religion and what they'd been taught and the what they'd been brought up with, that the establishment was not giving them the answers. So it's
yeah,
very interesting in times of extreme stress that we want to turn to something else,
yeah, bigger
something
than us.
more than us, that can
Yeah.
give us tangible answers. But I
Mm.
think the most important understanding is we do not know the outcome of what is going to happen. We don't.
No, and astrology has guided us through thousands of years.
Yes.
It's not a new invention in any way. It is the universe that we live in, and what we draw from what we see is only interpretations. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, the church invalidated a lot of astrology just to create control, like a middleman aspect. It's always been a big
Well,
element in.
it did. It put astrology into a box, and it says you
Mhm.
can use it as long as it's for understanding the cycles of nature. And
Mm.
they used it for timings for operations and all sorts of stuff. There was
Yeah,
lots of
yeah,
almanacs going, so it was
yeah,
being used, but it was absolutely in a box. It had nothing. The church completely put a veto on any form of spiritual understanding, or that we were,
yeah,
or that astrology was a cosmic language of soul
yeah.
and cosmos.
Mm,
That's what they stopped. They didn't
mm.
stop astrology, but
No.
what pushed astrology really into the background was the Age of Enlightenment.
Mm,
And this whole, that the fact that they at the Age of Enlightenment, everything was turning to more scientific way of life, and turned the cosmos into random planets just floating around. I mean, it
yeah. And
stripped the
calling it
life out of
astronomy
it.
instead of, so,
Yes,
but yet astrology is still a very important part in religion. I mean, Easter is celebrated after the first full moon of,
yes, absolutely.
or now Eid Mubarak is after the new moon.
Yeah.
There's always an element of astrology
It's
uh,
an element of
that is
astrology,
there.
yes,
Yes.
yeah, and that's
Um,
very much the moon cycle. And
mm,
don't forget, the modern, our Western astrology is the new year is associated with 0 degrees Aries.
yeah.
So Western astrology is always aligned to that, and that goes back to the Gregorian calendar. I think
And,
that was Pope, what was his name, the 13th. Can't remember which Pope. Hang on, Gregory 13th.
yeah. Yeah.
So it has always been that there always I mean, you can't ignore the moon. You might say astrology is a load of rubbish, but you can't avoid the cycle of the moon. That is not possible.
No, or
Either
the
way.
sun for that matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
But
pretty prominent.
yeah, so that's what happened to astrology. It was just pushed aside really in the Age of Enlightenment.
Mm.
And it's having this fantastic resurgence at exactly the moment we need it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And that's why I think astrologers really need to not, um, yeah,
Yeah.
clickbait it out of importance, out of relevance, because
Mm.
it's only up to a point where it's going to be relevant that it's the biggest ever.
Well, it's everything. Humanity is very naturally competitive.
Mm,
Aries is very competitive. So
mm,
this coming month, you've got 7 planets in Aries. That's competitive.
yeah.
So we're going to get a lot of it, a lot of
Yeah.
it. But just be
Luckily, we have
discerning on who
choices, so
you,
we choose who we
yeah,
follow and what we do.
yeah, just be discerning about
Mm,
who you choose to uh um yeah, who you choose to listen to.
yeah,
You're going to have the Daily Mail and the Sun, and you're going
yeah,
to have the Times and the
yeah,
Guardian.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. Just yeah, where you put your energy, where you put your attention is where your energy flows.
yes, yeah,
So I think that's maybe a good way
yeah.
to
I
look
just
at
want
the
to
world.
say, just to end,
Mm,
um, we're moving into a month where it is very, very pokey energy. It's
mm,
very, very, very aggressive.
yeah,
So just take care of yourselves.
yeah,
Pluto's involved, Uranus is involved. We've got Jupiter out of on its own. It's not even aspected. So I think that's sort of the homelands are going to be very coming in and going out, and it has nothing to ground it.
yeah,
So I don't know. If we can get through as a collective, we can get through to the end of April into May. I think things will start to ease. The aggression will start to ease,
yeah.
but
And I think
just
we
be
will get
careful.
through.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
it's
for
just
sure.
how we get through.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if we look
That's,
at it as a pilgrimage, then I
mm,
think it sort of takes that that fear out of it, doesn't it?
Yeah. And it makes us part of the journey instead of
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
outside of it.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sue, thank you.
Whew.
There's
Happy
a lot,
equinox,
there's a lot
everyone.
happening. We've got, I was just looking now, so we've got Mars entering Aries on the 9th. We've got Mercury entering Aries on the 15th.
Yeah.
We've already got Neptune and Saturn there,
Yeah.
and we've obviously got the Sun there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
And then so in on the 2nd of April, we'll have Mercury. That's the full moon in April. We've got Mercury and Mars, and is still in Pisces,
Hmm.
and then everything else is in Aries. So, and that's the big build up to this to the new moon on the 17th of
17.
April.
Yes.
Yeah, it's there's going to be a major bridge between past and
Mm.
now. This new,
And each other, I think, as you
yeah,
say.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So look each other in the eye when you're walking down the road and greet each other, I think.
Smile. We're all in
Smile.
this together.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Sue. We will see each other
We
on the
will.
other side of, yes,
Yeah, we will see
this
you on the
time.
other side, as they say.